This property report is powered by realestate.com.au. Know the value of your home today. Track your property now.
To property now, and with Melbourne today joining Sydney and the ACT emerging from lockdown, the spring selling season is ready to get back into gear. Joining me now from realestate.com.au is John Healy. John, seller confidence is returning, meaning there's more choice for buyers with listings on the rise.
Well, that's right, and with Melbourne now emerging from its 11-week lockdown, not long after Sydney and the ACT emerged from theirs, seller confidence is really building now. But as the PropTrack listings report revealed this week, sellers in Melbourne and the ACT have actually been making up for lost time for some weeks now, and that all stems back to when in-person property inspections were allowed to resume in those markets in the middle of September. That saw new listings in Melbourne surge more than nearly 75% in September compared to August, and new listings surged in the ACT that month as well, up more than 42%. In Sydney, the beginning of the spring selling season saw new listings there increase nearly 32%. But given that in-person property inspections were allowed in Sydney right throughout its 15-week lockdown, that is likely contributing to the smaller month-on-month increase in new listings in that market compared to Melbourne and the ACT. Nationally, we saw new listings increase 22.5% in September, and that helped lift overall total listings by 3.1% in that month, up from a record low that happened in August. And so that is all much better news for buyers with more choice and more listings coming onto the market. But given the really high levels of buyer demand that we're still seeing, it is likely that buyers will continue to face some pretty stiff competition, at least in the short term.
And speaking of competition, John, what does the weekend ahead look like for auction numbers, and what impact will the eased restrictions in Melbourne have?
Well, in-person auctions return to Melbourne this weekend, which means that the spring selling season is really kicking into gear in those recently locked down markets, which is really great news. And sellers who were hesitant to list their properties during the recent restrictions are now bringing their properties to market. And this week we're expecting just over 2,700 homes to go to auction around Australia. That's an increase of 140% on auction volumes at this time last year. Melbourne is expecting its third Super Saturday in a row, with more than 1,100 homes set to go to auction there this weekend. That's nearly a 250% increase on auction volumes in Melbourne this time last year. And there's actually a fourth Super Saturday scheduled in Melbourne for next weekend. Sydney also expecting some really big auction numbers this weekend. 659 homes set to go to auction there this weekend. That's a 50% increase on numbers year on year in Sydney. And actually there is a Super Saturday scheduled for the Sydney market next Saturday, so more opportunity for buyers just around the track. Also a huge weekend of auctions scheduled in Brisbane, with 206 homes set to go under the hammer there. And the ACT has seen an increase of 15% week on week, with 106 auctions scheduled there.
And we know, of course, Sydney and the ACT welcome back in-person auctions last week, John. So how did sales perform in those markets and elsewhere?
Well, on the auction results available, the Sydney market had an almost identical clearance rate last weekend to the one it had the week before, sitting up just over a 90% clearance rate, which is a very strong number still, of course. The ACT had a slight fall week on week, down to a 96.5% clearance rate, but Brisbane actually had the sharpest decline week on week in terms of its clearance rate. It was down almost 8% week on week to sit just under a 79% clearance rate. But elsewhere in Melbourne and Adelaide, the clearance rates were up slightly week on week.
And just finally, John, with more properties being listed for sale and auction numbers also on the increase, which properties are drawing attention from buyers this week?
Well, the most popular homes this week are really a great example of the quality of prestige property that's now coming on to the market as the spring selling season continues. These homes are large homes, they're on large blocks. Many of them feature resort style features and facilities in them, and largely they're located in outer suburban areas where there is more space. But taking a quick look now at our second most viewed home of the week, it's in Tallebudgera, which is a suburb on the Gold Coast, around 16 kilometres from Surfers Paradise. This is a stunning home. It's an 8-bedroom property with 5 bathrooms on just under 2 acres of land. All the luxury features you'd expect, including a 24-metre pool, a sprawling kitchen, a really impressive home gym. But also what makes this property really unique is that it will appeal to those buyers looking for that work-life balance and those looking to work remotely, because it features its own business hub. It even has its own boardroom, according to the listing, and its own sort of separate office facilities away from the main house. So really certainly appealing to those buyers that are looking for better work-life balance and perhaps a COVID-led lifestyle shift, Danica.